Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I am here with my final race on F1 2021, which is also the My Team Career Mode Season 3 finale, as it is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, round number 10 out of 10, which beckons what a cracker this should be. But as always, click off the video now if you haven't already watched the previous video in this series, which was the Mexican Grand Prix, as we are going to head to the results to have a quick recap of what happened last time out, and it was an absolutely pivotal race, as my teammate Charles Leclerc failed to finish as a result of a mechanical failure. He's fought his way from near the bottom of the top 10 as a result of grid penalties up to P2, and then his engine blew up on him. Almost redemption for ourselves after our engine went when we were P2 in Imola, and he was leading the race and then went on to win. But that mechanical failure for Charles meant that we could comfortably win the Grand Prix, way ahead of any competition, absolutely dominating that one-stop medium to soft strategy, a weird one around a high tyre wear track, but it certainly worked well for ourselves, and as a result we have 174 points on the board. My teammate Charles Leclerc 6 behind with 168, so it's all to play for into this weekend for the championship title. While P2 last time out was Sergio Perez, another fantastic result at his home race with some insane pace last time out, 88 points now on the board from him, and he finished comfortably in front of those cars with a similar performance to his Red Bull, one of which was Lewis Hamilton, who was P3 rounding out the podium. He came out on top in a fantastic battle with his fellow countryman George Russell, who lost out and finished P4. Great to see those two tussling, only 2 points separating them in the championship heading into this weekend. While P5 last time out was Valtteri Bottas, didn't quite have the pace of his teammate Lewis, but he's still in the mix in the championship, only 4 points behind heading into Jeddah. While P6 last time out was Max Verstappen, an insane recovery drive from towards the back of the grid up into P6 at the end, an overtaking masterclass, further extending his points tally to 128. P7 was Lando Norris, the McLaren, struggling for pace once again. Not the best of results for him, while Carlos Sainz was a disappointing P8 in his Ferrari. P9 was Fernando Alonso, a strong result in that pacey-looking Alpine, as his teammate Esteban Ocon was P10 just behind, taking some more points, an extra one for him, extending his tally to 3. In terms of the Constructors' standings, we have already won it comfortably with 342 points, while Red Bull have secured their P2 with 216. Mercedes lead the battle for P3 with 118, while Ferrari are still in the mix with 103. McLaren, though, dropping further away in 5th with just 82 points. AlphaTauri are comfortably in 6th with 37. Alpine are in 7th with 12. Still all to play for that position, with Aston Martin just 5 points behind. They have 7. It would take quite a performance, though, from their two drivers this weekend if they want to reduce that deficit. And our first option, our first event, and we are forced to choose a grid with no benefits or disadvantages because we can't go through the options. My teammate is pretty much maxed out in all the stats, apart from, of course, focus at the moment. Incredibly low, 20-ish focus for him after that mechanical failure last time out. It has really affected him mentally, and that could put us right in the mix this weekend, as his pace is going to be hampered by that. So we've got a very, very good chance. Got a 6-point lead, and Charles clearly not in the right frame of mind, and now we can continue along trying to get some more upgrades in. Of course, the only upgrades that we haven't got in yet are durability upgrades, and we've got a durability department event, speaking of durability, and it's a risky one. Decline, nothing happens, or agree, we get 25% off turbo failure analysis, but we lose 20% morale. We're going to play it risky. We're going to go for that. We have to play it risky to get these upgrades in. It's the final race in My Team Career Mode on F1 2021, so we can just go how we like with it, play it risky, see if we can get some more durability upgrades in, and we can now try and rush that 45% failure chance. So we've got a very high chance, nearly 1 in 2, that it's going to fail, but hopefully we can get that upgrade in, as of course it will potentially slightly reduce the chance of me or Charles retiring from the race with our engine blowing up. In terms of another marketing event this time, we are going to gain 2,000 acclaim for just 100k cash. Why not? We might as well go for that. We still haven't reached 25 acclaim level for the team, which is a disappointment, so we can't get that extra sponsor, and we're certainly not going to get that now, but we've got the IC failure analysis upgrade in, and we got 2 more to come now. Oh, one of them has failed, but thankfully the other one's in. The one that's failed is the one that we gambled on, but still, although that won't be in for Jeddah, we are looking very strong in the durability department compared to where we were at the start of the season. We've really ploughed on with durability upgrades, and now we're fairly strong there. And next thing to have a look at is this chassis department event. Gain experience, lose experience. Gain morale, lose morale in the chassis department. My teammate, he doesn't need that experience. It won't affect his performance this weekend, so we don't need to worry about that too much. Because, of course, it only affects R&D points. We don't need the R&D points, so we'll just keep the chassis department happy. You know, I'm biased towards them, and I don't even know why. In terms of engine components heading into this weekend, we can take a new ICE, MGUH, MGUH, Energy Store, and Turbocharger. As we have a spare component in all of those, we can't have a fresh CE, as we don't have a spare one available. But, of course, we are going to be pacing in terms of engine components, pretty much all fresh power unit this weekend. And we're looking at the results of free practice, plenty of R&D points. They don't matter, but this certainly does. The R&D graph will decide performance out there today, and we maintain our comfortable lead over what is becoming quite a fragmented chasing pack. Red Bull fairly comfortably in front of Mercedes, and a similar gap then from them back to Ferrari, and another similar gap back to McLaren. The gap from McLaren to Alpine and the rest of the midfield remains a sizable one. Alpine, of course, still fairly comfortably in front of Aston Martin, but AlphaTauri, the big improvers, like their sister team Red Bull, they've shot right up to Aston Martin there, little bit behind, and they're certainly going to be in the mix this weekend, while Williams starting to drop away, a little bit frustrating for them. Alfa Romeo and Haas remain way off the back of the field. No upgrades for them since the French Grand Prix, and now you can get stuck into the final qualifying of the season. Welcome to Q1 for the final time on the F1 2021 game, and I must say I'm absolutely loving being here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit to round out our My Team Career Mode series, and what a cracking track it is. Arguably my favourite track on the whole calendar. Such a fast and flowing circuit with not too many hard braking zones, especially the first sector. I absolutely love this winding first section, especially through here, this double left-hander, then this right-hander, into the next right-hander, and then this left-hander, all about judging how much pace you can carry through without abusing track limits or potentially risking yourself clattering a wall on the exit of a corner or going too tight on the entry. Such a beautiful track to drive. In terms of Q1 here, we're just going for a decent banker lap, but towards the end of it, it has been a lot more than a banker lap, an incredibly good one for the first part of qualifying, and this should send us sailing through into Q2, and sailing quite appropriate as we are next to the sea here in Jeddah. And Gasly across the line, a 1 minute 27, 5.71. Decent for the AlphaTauri to say the least, but we are going to go across the line, a 1 minute 25, 3.30. An absolutely insane lap. And looking at the results of Q1, we have some pace this weekend, to say the least. Look at that. Nearly 9 tenths in front of our teammate Charles Leclerc. We are comfortably ahead this weekend, and Charles, if he wants to battle for pole with ourselves, he is going to have to make some huge improvements to his lap times in Q2 and Q3. Way behind at the moment, and a lot of work to do. Potentially low focus not helping, but low focus doesn't cost you 9 tenths really. Max Verstappen then P3 in his Red Bull, a strong lap in front of Lewis Hamilton, who's P4 in that Mercedes. Very good work from him here in Q1. Sergio Perez a disappointing P5 in his Red Bull, behind the quicker Mercedes in the hands of Hamilton, and quite a way behind his teammate Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is then P6 in his Ferrari, the better of the two Ferraris, and a strong lap to be in front of the quicker Mercedes in the hands of Valtteri Bottas, who is then in P7 behind a very disappointing lap from him, way behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton, behind that slower Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Gasly is then P8, and what a lap from that AlphaTauri driver. The Frenchman once again performing. The car might have improved, but not that much. Insane in Q1 from him. Let's see what he can do in the next part of qualifying. Maybe make it through into Q3. Russell is then in P9 in his Ferrari. A little bit behind his teammate in terms of places, but it's all very close in that bunch. We'll fight back in Q2 and Q3. So will the two McLarens. Ricciardo, a couple of tenths behind George Russell there. He's in P10, just in front of his teammate Lando Norris. We don't see that too often. Great to see those positions inverted. And it's the two Alpines, Esteban Ocon in P12 and Fernando Alonso in P13. Ocon will be really happy to be in front of his teammate, the more experienced Fernando Alonso, and the Alpines looking pacey. So is Lance Stroll. What a lap there from him, only just behind the Alpine of Alonso. He's looking as solid as his teammate Pierre Gasly here in Q1. Great work from him. And then it's Robert Schwartzman through to Q2 in P15 in the Aston Martin. Another great qualifying performance from him out there today, as he is then followed by the Williams of Latifi. Fantastic work from the Canadian. Great to see him through into Q2. Only 4/10 behind that Aston Martin, and he beat Matsushita to that position for the second part of qualifying, as Matsushita is knocked out in his faster Aston Martin in P17. Very disappointing there. Whole 10th behind Latifi and 5/10 behind his teammate. Robert Schwartzman clearly struggling at arguably the most technical track on our calendar. Giovinazzi is then in P18 in his Williams. A bit of a disappointing result for him there, behind his teammate by a couple of tenths, and that cost him an opportunity to fight in Q2. And then Yuki Tsunoda is P19 in his Alfa Romeo. Very strong lap there, only 1/10 behind the much quicker Williams. Tsunoda performing well, so is Mick Schumacher, who's only 5/10 behind in his Haas, and in front, pivotally, of Wang Yu Zhou, who'll be incredibly disappointed with that. 3/10 behind the Haas of Schumacher, and 8/10 behind his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, while Nikita Mazepin once again last in qualifying, way off the pace. And now into Q2. As I'm sure you can see, we've opted for the medium compound tyres, and that is because it will definitely be a one-stop strategy in the race. Definitely. Tyre wear fairly low around Jeddah. No question about the strategy and the number of pit stops, but I'd rather start on the mediums than have the pacier softs till the end of the race. It's a bit of a risk because it probably means Charles might get ahead of us in the first stint if he lines up P2 on the grid on the soft tyres, but I also think he's going to go for those medium tyres. And if he doesn't have the pace to make it through on those medium tyres, then of course he'll start on the softs. We'll definitely start on the mediums at this rate. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2. We're going really strongly on these tyres, promising for the start of the race, of course, when we're going to be using them. But we are going for the mediums, then we can go for the more aggressive softs at the end. And even if we are behind him before our pit stop, we can then sail in front. Well, I'll say before our pit stop, we'd be in front of him because he'd pitted earlier. But you know what I mean, when we come out behind him after our pit stop, we'll probably sail in front of him, as we are going to be on the significantly quicker soft tyres. And now, of course, we're going to cross the line. This will be enough for ourselves to make it through to Q2. 1 minute 26.346, very strong for the medium tyres. In front of Perez, Russell, Verstappen and Alonso. We're not going to go out again. We're going to return to the pits and see then if my teammate Charles Leclerc has gone for the mediums or the softs, and he's gone for the softs. Clearly he went and tried for the mediums, but just was not quick enough. And ourselves on the mediums, an incredibly good lap, a 1 minute 26.346, and under 4/10 behind my teammate Charles Leclerc, who's on soft tyres, which is supposedly nearly a whole second quicker. So that is very telling. Yes, he does make it through in P1 to Q3. He'll start on those soft tyres. We'll start on the mediums. And it's Perez in P3. A fantastic performance in his Red Bull. Only 5/10 behind my teammate Charles Leclerc. And Perez very comfortably in front of the chasing pack, led by George Russell. What a lap in his Ferrari. Great to see there. Continuing a good run of form quite recently. And then Max Verstappen just behind him. He'll be a bit disappointed to be so far behind his teammate. 4/10 there. It's kind of flipped from Q1, and then Daniel Ricciardo is P6 in his McLaren. The McLaren, not that strong of a car this weekend, but only just behind Verstappen and way in front of his struggling teammate, Lando Norris. Then it's the two Mercedes, Hamilton in front of Valtteri Bottas. Those two incredibly close. A bit disappointing, though, for Hamilton to be behind Ricciardo. Similarly so for his teammate Valtteri, who's then in P8, slightly behind. Nothing really to separate the teammates. And it's Carlos Sainz in P9 in his Ferrari. A bit disappointing there to be so far behind his teammate, but it's pretty close in terms of lap times. So I'm sure he'll fight back in Q3. And then off the back of this group of cars is Lando Norris struggling for pace a bit in his McLaren and quite a way behind his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Fairly unusual there. And then Gasly in P11 in Q2. What a performance in that AlphaTauri. Incredible to see. It's not that strong of a car still, but he puts in an incredible lap to be in front of Fernando Alonso in the much quicker Alpine. A bit disappointing to be P12, not P11, but still the Spaniard in that pacer car has a good opportunity for the race. So does Lance Stroll, who starts P13 in his AlphaTauri. Another fantastic qualifying performance from the Canadian. He did it in Q1 and he's done it again in Q2 as he beats Esteban Ocon to P13. Ocon a bit disappointed with that, quite a way behind his teammate and a couple of tenths behind the slower AlphaTauri in the hands of the Canadian Lance Stroll. And then behind Esteban Ocon it is Robert Schwartzman in P15, a strong lap in his Aston Martin. Couldn't really do too much more there, but he does finish comfortably in front of Nicholas Latifi, who's then P16 in his Williams. But it is once again absolutely fantastic, as I said earlier, to see Nicholas Latifi out of Q1 into Q2. He couldn't really have done much more with that Williams car at his disposal, but still only 5/10-ish behind Robert Schwartzman. So great to see him into the second part of qualifying. But now we're into big boy time. It is Q3. We're on those fresh set of soft tyres. We've got 3 fresh sets of soft tyres, and we are going to be using 2 of them here in Q3. We're going to go for a run to start with, and then go out again on another set of soft tyres, and probably go for 2 runs on that compound of tyre. And you can see we're hooking it up pretty nicely this time round. Really nice and close to the walls. Very aggressive on the exit through there. That's going to help us. A 29.560 in the first sector. A very strong start to the lap. And now, as we head into the 180-degree bank corner, we are continuing to push. This is a great way to start Q3. Will we be quicker than my teammate Charles Leclerc? That is likely, but by how much? That is the big question here. Will he be able to step it up for the final part of qualifying? Now, heading into the final corner, trying to get it tight to the inside line, and a strong exit it is, pretty much there. That's strong. DRS activated down the main straight. What's it going to be? A 1 minute 25.2. It fell off a bit towards the end of the lap there, only slightly quicker than our Q1 time. Still a very respectable lap time. We're going to return to the pitch though, and then go out again, because I still think there's quite a bit of pace to be found in the middle and final sector. And now we are out once again, and very interestingly, my teammate Charles Leclerc and one of the 2 McLarens, who I do guess will be Lando Norris, I think, out of the 2, they're not going out again. So for my teammate, he can't improve on P2. He's going to have to hope that his lap is good enough so that Verstappen, Hamilton and Perez can't bite a big chunk into it. For ourselves, though, we've pretty much secured pole by the fact Charles isn't going out again. But we're going for another lap. Sector 1 not as strong. And on the exit, though, it's not too bad. It was never going to be that much of a fantastic Sector 1. We had such an incredible, pretty much perfect Sector 1 on our first lap. Where we can improve, though, is in Sector 2 and Sector 3. And, of course, now heading into this right-hander, left-hander combination close to the wall on the inside line. Aggressive with track limit, sliding out on the outside, on the exit, nearly into the wall, but it's nice and measured. And this is proving to start to give us a solid green delta. Purple in Sector 2. Now, through this complex section, tight on the inside line we were entering it. We do miss the curb on the inside line, though, and that sweeping right-hander, that may cost us 300th potentially. Bit frustrating there. Now into the final corner, hard on the brakes, onto the inside line. We need a strong exit here, and it's not too shabby either. This is going to be a very respectable lap time. A 1 minute 24.811. That's secured pole for ourselves, and I'm pretty happy with that. We might think about another attempt here, launching it into turn 1 and turn 2, but too wide on the exit, and that is pretty much our lap scrapped now. So we're going to return to the pit in a second and have a look at the results of Q1. Shame we didn't manage to have that opportunity to go even quicker, but a 1 minute 24.811 puts us on pole. We have so much more pace than my teammate Charles Leclerc, and I know he didn't go out again, but still, his lap 1.2 seconds behind ours. We are looking incredibly strong this weekend. The Monegasque, my teammate, only P2. A bit disappointing there for him. He just does not have the pace of ourselves, and by not going out again, he nearly risked that position to the charging Red Bull from behind, as Max Verstappen is then on the second row in P3 in that Red Bull. A very strong qualifying performance there, only just behind my teammate Charles Leclerc, and comfortably in front of the nearest car with a similar performance. That's the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. He'll be happy with P4 in front of Checo Perez, the Mexican, down in P5. So good performance from Hamilton, not so much from Checo, who's quite a way behind his teammate Max Verstappen. 5/10 there, and a bit of work to do in the race, but with that pacey Red Bull at his disposal, I'm sure he'll be able to get past the Mercedes and fight with Max. Then it's the 2 Ferraris of Sainz and Russell. Those 2 very close together. You can barely separate them. The Spaniard in front of the Brits. Those 2 will be looking to make some good progress in the race and hopefully outscore Mercedes for the championship. Bottas is then P8, and a disappointing one to say the least. Quite a way behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton in terms of positions. A lot of work to do heading into the Grand Prix. While Daniel Ricciardo is a strong P9. We know that McLaren isn't that quick, only 2/10 behind the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas, but his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo we're talking about, Lando Norris, will be very disappointed there. P10 in Q3, doesn't have the pace, and with a lot of work to do heading into the race. But now, of course, we're going to get stuck into the season finale.
We're here today on the shores of the Red Sea in the lower Hijaz Mountains to visit one of the newest circuits in the Formula One calendar. It's Jeddah, home to what we all hope is going to be a thrilling Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. And it's fantastic to have you with us here today, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn one. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's the owner driver in pole position then, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Bottas, Lando Norris, and Gasly, Leclerc, Stroll, Hamilton, and Nicholas Latifi, Matsushita, Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, and Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, and Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Verstappen, Joe, and Robert Schwartzman. And now it's time to head down to the track.
As usual, we are going to have a recap of the order before we get stuck into today's racing, because it has once again been shaken by grid penalties across the field. But despite all those shenanigans, we do maintain our P1 to start on those medium tyres. And as a result, all we have to do is keep the position and just dominate and control the race from the front, especially so with my teammate Charles Leclerc starting from P7. A lot of work for him to do. Perez starts P2. He'll be looking for another strong result and potentially a podium and potentially even attacking us off the start on those quicker and more grippy soft compound tyres. George Russell starts in P3 in his Ferrari. He'll be looking to beat Valtteri Bottas in that Mercedes after being beaten by Lewis Hamilton for P3 last weekend. Bottas, though, will want the exact opposite. He'll want George Russell to be staring at the back of his exhaust for the whole race in his gearbox. We'll have to wait and see which one of those two drivers will come out on top in that fairly evenly matched battle. Lando Norris then starts in P5 in his McLaren, inheriting some positions due to grid penalties for others. He struggled in qualifying, will he struggle in the race? But yeah, Gasly starts P6. It'd be great to see him get some strong points here today after a fantastic qualifying performance, while my teammate Charles Leclerc starts behind him in P7. Charles is going to be very frustrated with that. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got to quickly make his way up the order and then hopefully have a chance at fighting ourselves. We don't want that, though, in this race. Lance Stroll then will start P8 in his AlphaTauri, not too far behind his teammate. It'll be difficult for him to stay in the points, but it'll be fantastic to see a double point score for AlphaTauri, while Mercedes, as Lewis Hamilton starts in P9, he needs a very strong start to make his way up to Valtteri Bottas and George Russell to defend his position in the championship. Nicholas Latifi then starts in P10 in his Williams. It'll be difficult to stay there with faster cars charging from behind, including Daniel Ricciardo, who starts P12. Matsushita is, though, in between the Williams and the McLaren. He'll struggle to stay there after a disappointing qualifying performance, lacking the pace this weekend. Daniel Ricciardo isn't, though, the better of the two McLaren drivers. He should have a good chance of getting up into the points in this race, while Esteban Ocon starts in P13 in his Alpine, a pacey midfield car, although points could be a tad of a challenge. Giovinazzi then starts in P14 in his Williams. He'll probably drop down the order. Not the best of machinery. Neither so for the driver starting behind, Yuki Tsunoda, or the driver starting in P16 and P17. Tsunoda, after a great qualifying result, will struggle to stay there with much quicker cars further back like Verstappen and Sainz. Similar story for Mick Schumacher. The Haas will struggle, especially his teammate Nikita Mazepin, who usually drops like a stone to the back of the field by the end of the first couple of laps. Carlos Sainz starts P18 in his Ferrari. It'll be a difficult race for him to make his way up into the top 10, although I'm sure I'll give it his best shot. While his fellow countryman Fernando Alonso starts in P19 in his Alpine. The Alpine not as quick. It's a tough challenge. He'll just focus on trying to make his way closer up to his teammate Esteban Ocon, while Max Verstappen once again starting at the rear of the field. P20 today. Question is, can he get some points? I wouldn't count Max out with another overtaking masterclass. While Guan Yu Zhou starts in P21 in his Alfa Romeo. It could be a challenging race from there for him today, similarly so for Robert Schwartzman, despite a decent Q2 performance from him in qualifying. In terms of strategy, everyone else is going for the soft-medium strategy. We are having to use the medium tyres. We chose to go on for them in Q2. Then we can use the softs at the end of the race, the pacier tyres to finish off our season. That's what we are going to do here in Jeddah. So our final race on F1 2021, 5 red lights here in Jeddah. They're out and away we go for my team's Season 3 finale, and it's a poor launch for ourselves. Perez already in front as we head into Turn 1, but braking late. Well, the inside line for Turn 2, nearly banging wheels. We're going to slam the door shut on Checo, and now it's side by side between him and George Russell, and Russell is going to come through into P2. We're allowed to sail away. It's then Russell, Perez, Bottas, Norris, Gasly, Leclerc, Stroll, Hamilton, Ricciardo and Latifi going side by side, but it's Latifi boxing on the inside line. Ricciardo up to P10. Now Latifi under threat from Matsushita. This is the battle for P11. Matsushita will settle low for that P12. And it's Ocon, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda. And then for P16, it's Mick Schumacher and Max Verstappen jockeying for position. Look at the amount of grip Verstappen has round the outside line. Gets him moved up, done up into P16. Then it's Schumacher, Alonso up to P19 in front of Nikita Mazepin. Carlos Sainz with a poor start down to P20, followed by Schwartzman, and Guan Yu Zhou rounds out the field in his Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, later on lap number 1, Carlos Sainz looking to get past Nikita Mazepin, but he's boxed in, and now Schwartzman somehow going around the outside line, but I don't think he's going to be able to stick that tyre in, and he isn't. Carlos Sainz is going to keep that P20. Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso looking pacey on the back of Mick Schumacher, similarly so for Verstappen. Closing onto the back of Yuki Tsunoda as they head into Turn 1. Verstappen will go around the outside line. It's side by side between the two. The inside line for the second corner. Incredibly close. And Verstappen, though, does manage to come through into P15 in front of Tsunoda. Then it's Alonso in front of Mick Schumacher. A great move from the Alpine as he makes a lot more progress than Carlos Sainz. My teammate Charles Leclerc started P7, currently P7, but that might not be true for that much longer. He goes going to go round the outside line of Pierre Gasly and the Alpha Tauri. What a move. And similarly so for Max Verstappen, who's the exact same on Antonio Giovinazzi, already up into P14 for him, while Carlos Sainz finally clears the slower Haas of Nikita Mazepin, who drops down to P20. And Robert Schwartzman is looking very racy on the back of the Russian driver. This could get interesting. Look how close Robert is onto the back of the Haas, and he's going to go for a move through this winding section. Incredibly brave. Look at this. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Will Mazepin be able to keep a foot in, or a wheel in this case? He does, but Schwartzman with more pace, more speed on the exit gets that P20. Fantastic action, and it's the same at the front. Perez got an initial fantastic launch, but then we slammed the door shut. Russell came through. They're going to go side by side on lap number 3, and Perez is going to have the outside line. He's trying to regain that P2, and he's going to do exactly that. Great work there in the Red Bull as we are sailing comfortably away. Carlos Sainz certainly isn't. He's going to go around the outside line of the other Haas. Mick Schumacher this time round. And it's at the 180-degree bank corner. A great move there from the Spaniard up into P18 on lap number 3. While further in front, Max Verstappen looking very racy on the back of Matsushita. We saw Matsushita versus Nikita Mazepin a lap or two ago. And now it's Verstappen versus Matsushita through this section. The Aston Martin's in plenty of side-by-side action. Look at this, very brave from the Dutchman. He'll have the inside line, but now the outside line. Great defending from the Japanese driver, the rookie this season. Verstappen, though, is looking to come through. They're still somewhat side by side, as it's Matsushita trying to still stay in there, but he isn't going to be able to do so around the outside line. He'll get boxed out, and Ocon nearly got a chance to come through there after the two of jockeying and fighting for position. Meanwhile, my teammate Charles Leclerc looking to make more progress. Now it's Lando Norris. They're going to go side by side into this overtaking hotspot. That's where they get the moves finished, and he's up into P5. Fantastic move there. Meanwhile, for ourselves, we're just going pretty strongly in this race on these mediums. I've got a lot more pace on these mediums than I was expecting. We've sailed away from Checo Perez. A purple sector 1 this time around as we head into this lovely complex section. Reasonably close to the wall. We're not taking any risks at this stage. We're just driving smoothly, carefully, and we're basically just trying to build a comfortable gap on Perez. And of course, my teammate Charles Leclerc is currently up into P5. And then eventually we'll be able to pit onto the soft tyres towards the end and be really quick and pacey. But a good start for ourselves. My teammate Charles Leclerc didn't get a good initial launch, but he's been making some decent overtakes since then. He's going to go around the outside line of Valtteri Bottas. What a spectacular aerial shot we had then. We need some more of them, especially on the F1 2022 game. And now he's managed to stick it round the outside line at the final corner. Insane work from Charles. He's up into P4. But Valtteri Bottas looking to dispute that. He's going to be round the outside line into turn 1. He'll have the inside line for turn 2. This could get spicy, but Valtteri cannot retake that position. Meanwhile, his teammate Lewis Hamilton is looking to overtake the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo. This is for P8. Ricciardo starting to drop away from Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton speeds through around the outside line. Certainly the optimal line for overtaking through there. Meanwhile, Alonso is going to do exactly the same on Antonio Giovinazzi's signs. His mate will try and follow through on the Williams. Alonso, though, up into P15, while my teammate Charles Leclerc continuing to make progress. He's absolutely flying at this stage in the race. And it's this section where he really does catch up onto the car in front. And now, with that DRS assistance, of course, Russell should still have DRS from Checo Perez, but my teammate is going to look for a move round the outside line even of George Russell. He's going to go for it again into the final corner. He's going to stick it out. Look at this. On the exit, the rear a little bit slightly, nearly banging the wall, but he's still flying out of the final corner, and he's up into P3. What a spectacular move. Russell's going to try and re-overtake my teammate. He's kept a tyre in. Fantastic to see. But he cannot do anything more than that, and Charles is up into P3. Meanwhile, these two are at it once again. Ricciardo versus Hamilton. What a battle between the two. The papaya orange McLaren will have the outside line, and he gets that move done. Great to see, and this is some of the best overtaking we have seen in the My Team Career mode. Meanwhile, Alonso gains another position, this time on Nicholas Latifi. Alonso has gained some really great progress considering he's in a decent midfield car. Max Verstappen's made some strong progress. He's about to get past the sister car, the AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll, but he can't do that. He's going to have to wait a little bit later on the lap to be able to go for the move. Meanwhile, my teammate Charles Leclerc already onto the back of Checo. He is charging through the field at this stage. Insane pace. Checo is going to try and defend down the inside line, but look at this from Charles. Already got a comfortable gap in front of Checo through the final corner, sticks it out, and it's a fantastic exit once again from him. Perez already slotting in behind, and my teammate Charles up into P2. Perez defenseless with no DRS. Meanwhile, further back, Bottas versus Russell for P4. Mercedes versus Ferrari. We saw it last weekend. It's happening again. It's Russell, this time against Bottas, and they're continuing the battle. Battles are starting down the main straight and finishing here at the second braking zone on the lap, and Bottas up into P4. What a move. Meanwhile, his teammate Lewis Hamilton looking to also go up a position, and he's going to get the move done on Daniel Ricciardo. He got past Ricciardo regained the position, and now Lewis back up into P8, I do believe that is. Meanwhile, on lap number 7 for ourselves, not the strongest of first sectors this time round, but our medium tyres holding up fairly well. And although my teammate is into some clean air, he's not really initially gaining on ourselves. We've got such good pace on these mediums that Charles, even though he's on soft, and I know they were starting to wear a little bit at this stage, he's not even an inch quicker in a sense. So we are driving a really strong, consistent race, and we're looking to continue that form. George Russell looking to battle Valtteri Bottas once again into turn 1. This is evolving into quite a battle between the two. Russell down the inside line. Bottas will have the inside line for turn 2. Russell will really struggle to make the overtake into the next corner, but he's already got it done before then. Insane from George Russell. Didn't need the next braking zone to complete the move. Great to see us further back. It is looking all spicy here. Giovinazzi in front of Schwartzman and the TVU going side by side through the first couple of corners. Look at this. It's the Aston Martin versus the Alpine, and also an Aston Martin. Aston Martin versus the Alpine in front, of course. That's Matsushita and Alonso. It's Aston Martin versus Williams further back. Schwartzman in front of Latifi. Insane to see. And you cannot catch a break here at Jeddah. It's all action. Meanwhile, on to lap number 9. Alonso versus Sainz side by side through turn 1 and turn 2. Now through that sweeping left-hander. You can see more fighting between the two, and it's Sainz who passes his fellow countryman, the Spaniard Fernando Alonso, as now Giovinazzi in front of Tsunoda, Latifi and Zhou. That is towards the rear of the field. On lap number 9, we are just continuing to plough along, set some decent lap times on our medium. It's almost like an extended qualifying session for ourselves. It's a really, really enjoyable race. Will Charles opt to dispose of his soft tyres? No, he won't. But it looks like Checo Perez is in this time round. The Red Bull looking to get rid of those worn soft tyres. Probably put on some medium tyres into his pit box now. And it's the hard tyres going on. A huge strategy mistakes at Red Bull. That's going to really cost him. You can easily make it to the end on the mediums. Meanwhile, George Russell and Lando Norris now going side by side. Russell dropping away from Bottas. Norris nearly had a look at taking that P4. He's hung on really well onto Bottas and Russell, despite struggling for pace in qualifying. Alonso in front of Matsushita. Carlos Sainz coming into the pits also. Will it be the hard tyres too? Another poor strategy mistake. Yes, it is from Ferrari, messing up Carlos once again. Not for the first time, to say the least, this season. Meanwhile, Latifi and Tsunoda going side by side. Williams and Alfa Romeo jockeying for position on lap number 10. Latifi will have the outside line, the prime position for overtaking there to get the inside line for the next corner. And he gets the move done. Sainz has exited the pits in P22. So very frustrating for him. Of course, others still will have to pit, but he's on those slower, hard tyres, so his progress will be hampered. We, once again, are just continuing to sail along nicely in the night here at the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit. My teammate Charles Leclerc, will he come in this time round for what I presume will be a fresh set of medium compound tyres? He is in, and he's going to enter this chicane section at the start of the pit entry, and he's going to get serviced fairly soon. What about Valtteri Bottas, George Russell, Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly? Bottas not in, but George Russell is. Norris stays out, Gasly stays out. Now my teammate into his pit box. Will he get a good stop from the team? The softs are off, the mediums are on, and that's the clean stop from the crew, as now George Russell will take off his soft tyres, put on his medium tyres, and he's out of his pit box. Meanwhile, same for Daniel Ricciardo. He's putting on the mediums, as you'd expect, but forced to wait as other cars come through. Hamilton was in the pits there, and Robert Schwartzman along the main straight. He's not in. Giovinazzi's in. Lance Stroll's just been serviced. All the cars all over the place, scattered in a sense. Max Verstappen is behind his rival Lewis Hamilton. Meanwhile, Latifi cuts through in front of Ricciardo, and that's really going to cost Ricciardo. Then further back, Zhou, Stroll, Schumacher, Sainz. Where will Alonso be? Alonso's behind Sainz. Then we've got Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Mazepin into the pits here, looking to get rid of those soft tyres onto the mediums as he is at the back of the field. Meanwhile, Daniel Ricciardo in front of Latifi, but the amount of time he's been behind Latifi has really cost him to Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in front, and that is going to be incredibly frustrating for the Honey Badger. That could really hamper what was set to be a decent recovery result. At the moment, Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas, Pierre Gasly, they haven't pitted. We, of course, haven't pitted. We're going to be pitting a lot later off our medium tyres. But into the pits now. Bottas, Norris and Gasly. Will we see both Aston Martins or just one of the two this time round? Will one of them go extremely long? Either way, Bottas into his pit box at Mercedes. Needs a nice clean stop to ensure he comes out in front of Norris and Gasly. Same at McLaren in terms of clean stops. And Alpha Tauri pit crew service and Gasly, and they're going to be out of the pits in the exact same order. So Perez continues along. Where will Bottas be out? He'll probably be out behind George Russell. On those medium tyres, Russell is in front of Valtteri Bottas. Great work with strategy from Ferrari for him. Then it's Bottas, Norris, Gasly. Schwartzman staying out. Then it's Verstappen and Hamilton, followed by Ricciardo. Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Matsushita is going to be exiting the pits. Latifi is in his Williams. Let's see if they get a good stop there for him. And it's the hard tyres going on lap number 12. What are they doing? Absolute madness at Williams. Stupid strategy mistakes. I think Tsunoda put on those hard tyres too as Schumacher exits his pit box. That's going to be incredibly costly for Latifi and Tsunoda. Guan Yu Zhou's got a good chance of catching up to them on his medium tyres, much quicker compounds than Latifi's hards and Tsunoda's hards. So some very questionable strategy options. Then in front, Matsushita, Alonso, we've got Sainz, Ocon, Stroll in P12, Ricciardo in P11, and then in the points, Hamilton, Verstappen. Schwartzman still has to pit. Then it's Gasly, Norris, Valtteri Bottas in P5. He's closing onto the back of George Russell, but now Max Verstappen looking very racy behind Robert Schwartzman. We could see some fireworks here into the the final corner. It's Red Bull versus Aston Martin. The amount of more pace Max Verstappen has than Schwartzman is pretty incredible. Of course, Schwartzman on those old soft tyres. Now Bottas versus George Russell into turn one. Bottas looking to regain that P4 that he had before the pit stops. And he's going to have the outside line for the next overtaking spot, usually where they finish off their moves. And now Schwartzman, the last of those to pit, I do believe, and it's those medium tyres on his Alfa Romeo Formula 1 car. Meanwhile, Sainz and Alonso going side by side down the main straight, and Alonso on those quicker medium tyres is punishing Sainz for that poor strategy decision, and Sainz drops down to P4. Team Matsushita will be out in front of Schwartzman. What a recovery from Schwartzman, though. Started so far behind Matsushita, and now he's just behind him in P16. Then you've got Giovinazzi, Latifi, Yuki Tsunoda right on the back of Latifi, looking to come through despite having a slower car. Now onto lap number 14 we head. Alonso versus Carlos Sainz, heading down to turn one. An all-Spanish battle, and it's side by side between the Ferrari and the Alpine. Hard tyres versus medium tyres, effectively. The difference between the two cars cancelled out by the tyre difference, and now round the outside line for Carlos Sainz, going to go for the move, and he's going to get it done on Fernando Alonso. That's starting to develop into quite a battle. Meanwhile, for ourselves, we're ploughing along quite nicely. We're still, actually, even though we're on quite worn medium tyres at this stage, we're comfortably in front of my teammate, Charles Leclerc, who's in P2. 32 seconds the gap at the moment, as Guan Yu Zhou is going to have to let us through. A strong sector one this time round, and we're not even setting that bad times. You know, we're still quicker than my teammate, and he's on fresh medium tyres. We're going to be pitting about lap 16 or lap 17 for those soft tyres. George Russell and Valtteri Bottas aren't pitting, but they're certainly hurtling down the pit straight. Look at this, Bottas in front of Russell. Some more top class battling between the duo. Great to see. Norris and Gasly still hanging on to that train. Then it's Verstappen getting away from Hamilton, Ricciardo, Stroll, Ocon, and then Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso once again. These two battling, and it's really compromising their race. They're dropping further away from Ocon and Stroll further in front. Alonso will go around the outside line into turn one. They have the inside line for turn two, the outside line for that left-hander sweeping corner, and then the outside line for the next corner. He's trying to hold on, trying to stay in there, but it's Carlos Sainz who's then P13 as a result. Alonso trying to get the move done, but now he's going to go for it again. Lap 16, and he's going to go around the outside line into turn one, try the exact same move side by side, but he's nearly shoved out, nearly contact, forced to take evasive action, getting very messy between the two. Thankfully, I don't think there was any contact. I think it was just evasive action, and Alonso's going to have to wait yet another lap if he wants to overtake the Spaniard, who is Carlos Sainz. Antonio Giovinazzi has just been lapped by ourselves. He's pretty comfortably in front of his teammate Nicholas Latifi, finding a bit better pace in this race. Latifi leading Tsunoda and showing plumes of smoke coming out the back of Antonio Giovinazzi's Williams. It's disaster for him, and he's going to retire from the race. What a shame for the Italian. Latifi will be up into P17, and both Tsunoda and Zhou will gain positions, as now on lap 17 our tyres are pretty short. We were really poor last time round, but it's a solid lap at the moment, but we have to box this lap just in case there's a late safety car from that incident with Antonio Giovinazzi. So we have to take precautionary action. We were going to box about lap 17 or lap 18. Anyway, we are in this time round, getting it carefully slowed down. No need to take any risks, of course. We've got a comfortable 34-second lead on my teammate Charles Leclerc, and pit stops are only going to take about 20 seconds. Of course, we're now going to head all the way down the main straight into our pit box. The soft tyres will be going on. Unfortunately, it's not fresh soft tyres, because I made a little bit of a mistake. Only a little bit of a mistake when it came to qualifying, and I didn't use the tyres that were reserved for Q3, so as a result, I didn't actually get to use them in the race. I should have scrubbed them in potentially at some point in Q1, scrubbed in another set of tyres, and then used the Q3 reserve tyres for Q3. As Schumacher, the back marker, is in front of us. We're comfortably in front of Charles Leclerc, but Schumacher's going to cost us quite a bit of time. He's not letting us through. But basically, I'm on slightly worn tyres, but it's not going to make much of a difference. So like 4% tyre wear. We only used them for one run. I think these were the Q1 tyres, so we're going to be pretty much fine with that. Anyway, George Russell versus Valtteri Bottas once again into turn one, lap 18, and another battle between the two. Hit the Bottas battle, that's what I'm calling it. Taking the start of both their surnames, and they're continuing the side-by-side jockeying for position. I absolutely love to see this. It's not just a done deal at turn 1 and 2, and Russell once again gets that move done. They're constantly inverting the positions, and it's costing them quite a lot to Perez in front, who's on those slower hard tyres. Meanwhile, Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll we've got a battle between the two. I do believe it's the Alpine of Ocon who's caught up to Lance Stroll, and he tries to come through. That does not work. Carlos Sainz looking to get the overtake on Fernando Alonso. The hard tyres versus the medium tyres once again. Sainz on the outside line of Alonso. At this stage, you really don't know who started in front, but at least we know that Carlos Sainz is P13 and Alonso is P14 as a result. And now Latifi versus Tsunoda into the first corner. I think that's ourselves. Yeah, ourselves fast approaching behind, looking to lap them. Look at this. Latifi will try and go around the outside line to defend his position, but he's... Look at that, actually. You can get forced to slow down to let ourselves through, and it's a disaster for him, as then Zhou speeds through. So I thought Latifi was going to lose the position to Tsunoda, but then Tsunoda loses the position to Zhou. So some bad luck for Tsunoda with strategy, but of course with also letting other faster cars come through, and when you're getting lapped. But now Russell and Bottas once again fighting into turn one. They're getting closer and closer there every single lap. I'm waiting for some devastating contact and someone left in tears, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Russell will have the inside line. It's going to be very difficult to defend from Valtteri, who's up into P4 in this long train of cars. Not a long train here. It's Stroll and Ocon once again. Ocon just cannot seem to get past the AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll. The Canadian defending really well, but look at this from Ocon. He's got a very decent lead, a good overlap, and he's got that outside line, the inside line for the next corner, gets the move done. Meanwhile, the other Alpine of Alonso fighting Carlos Sainz, and he's in front before we reach that braking zone. And then further back, Latifi could be under pressure from Guan Yu Zhou. He's jumped from P19 to potentially P17 in just a matter of a few laps. Guan Yu Zhou round the outside line into turn one. He'll have the inside line for turn two, side by side with Latifi. Latifi forced to back off a bit there on his hard tyres to avoid some contact at turn one. And now they're going to continue their battle. But actually, great work from Guan Yu Zhou. Gets the move done. Doesn't need the outside line at that following corner to get the move done. Will George Russell need the outside line at the following corner after turn one and turn two? We'll have to wait and see. He's going to go side by side once again with Valtteri Bottas. They really are costing each other, potentially being able to fight with Sergio Perez here, because let's not forget, as they continue going side by side, if they just had a battle in the last 3 laps, they could have been reasonably close to Perez at this stage. Meanwhile, further back, Stroll and Ocon fighting. Russell is up to P4. Lance Stroll looking to maintain a P11 in this race. Carlos Sainz in front of the Alpine of Fernando Alonso up to the inside line for Esteban Ocon. And Stroll back through into P11. These two pretty much inseparable. Like these two, George Russell and Valtteri Bottas. We've got some fantastic pairs constantly battling in this race, and it is so enjoyable to watch, and I hope we have this in F1 2022, but even better as Bottas steaming through down the main straight there. That Mercedes power unit giving it a better turbo boost up into P4. He's pretty comfortably got the move done there before turn one. Meanwhile, Nicholas Latifi looking to regain that P17, fighting with the slower Alfa Romeos. It's not quite been that great of a race for him. Meanwhile, Guan Yu Zhou going side by side through the first couple of corners. He started P21 in this race. He's potentially up to P17 if he can get the move done here. But Latifi will have the outside line. However, Guan Yu Zhou's got a pretty comfortable lead. Latifi, though, still going to try and get that move done. P17 for Nicholas. Fantastic racing once again. And now Carlos Sainz versus Esteban Ocon on to lap number 22. We are getting towards the end of this race. We are doing pretty comfortably. We've had a very relaxed Grand Prix. Some of these guys' heart rates are going to be going through the roof with the amount of times they're battling. Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso, they're two Spaniards side by side. Alonso's going to go round the outside line of Carlos Sainz up into P13. Nicholas Latifi, Guan Yu Zhou, and then Yuki Tsunoda back here, and you can see my teammate Charles Leclerc cutting through them, trying to lap them, and as a result, Zhou's going to have to slow, but so's Latifi, so Tsunoda's not going to get back past Guan Yu Zhou. Instead, Zhou steams past Latifi. So Zhou, from 2 separate instances of these group of cars being lapped, he's gained positions. He's got quite lucky here today. He's taken advantage of that too. Quite a skill to do so. Great work from the rookie. Wow. We've got George Russell chasing onto the back of Valtteri Bottas. Look at the pace he's got down the main straight. He might get the move done before turn one, and he does. We're starting to see these moves from the likes of Russell and Bottas to become a lot more decisive. And now we're going to stick with ourselves for the final couple of laps. What a season it has been. It's been a roller coaster one. Not the greatest of laps for ourselves this time around in our final race of the season, but we have not been as dominant the whole season long as we have been here today. It all started out at Bahrain when I really realised how quick my teammate was in qualifying. But then, with a very strong one-stop strategy, we managed to take the win as we collide with the wall a bit on the inside line there. Thankfully, no contact as Alonso lets us through. But of course, the strategy brought us the win pretty much. We'd gone for that one-stop. Charles had gone for the two-stop. And it was first blood to ourselves. When at Imola, it all came crashing down with an unfortunate mechanical failure as Carlos Sainz doing a great job of getting out of the way. Totally sarcasm there, that really was. Really frustrating from Carlos. Come on, mate, move off your line. But, of course, at Imola, it all came crashing down with that mechanical failure. And then at Spain, when we stacked grid penalties and looked to make our way from the back of the grid, we didn't manage to overtake Max Verstappen at the end for P3. And I wondered after that, would that be pivotal for the championship? But then we had 3 consecutive wins. Of course, France, then Austria somehow, with a fantastic one-stop strategy there compared to my teammates. Charles Leclerc's two-stopper, and then glory at our home Grand Prix. That felt a very, very special race result. But then it started to go a little bit wrong from there at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We've been closing on to my teammate, but then a P6 while he won gave him a comfortable lead into the final 3 races of the season. And then at Spa, we did, though, manage to take the victory. A poor strategy decision from Charles to go onto the hard tyres. Invited ourselves, in a sense, to be able to overtake him. We got the move done at the end, and we managed to take the win from him. And it all came down to Mexico. That was the real title-changing point, like Imola was at the start of the season. My teammate's mechanical failure meant that we won, and we managed to take 25 points over him. And that meant that we came into this race with a 6-point lead. And today, we have been totally unchallenged. Yellow flags are out. Thankfully, not for ourselves. We wouldn't want that on the last lap of the season. But I think it's the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. It's been a frustrating race for him here today. He's been battling with Sainz for a lot of it. And as a result, he hasn't managed to make progress onto the back of the 2 cars in front of ourselves, which are, of course, I do believe the not the Aston Martin, the AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll. The Aston Martin's a bit further back. The AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll and the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. But back to today's race, we have been absolutely dominant for the whole weekend from qualifying into the Grand Prix. We simply have been unchallenged. 27 seconds in front of Charles. A huge winning margin. I think the largest this season. We have been unflustered throughout, and we have just driven an almost flawless race, and we are really pushing it in the final sector. We're looking to go for the fastest lap to top off what has been an incredibly enjoyable, but for ourselves, quite a calm and relaxed Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to finish our My Team career mode in Season 3. Because we are going to cross the line as winners here today in Jeddah, but not only that, as champions.
Fantastic drive, and it means your driver's world champion. What a result. Enjoy it.
And with that, another year of Formula One draws to a close, and the new World Drivers' Champion is declared. Another entry added to that prestigious list of the sport's most incredible drivers. They've done it then. Victory in the last race of the season and the championship as well. What a phenomenal end to a terrific Formula One season. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Well, what a thrilling end to an incredible Grand Prix weekend. Our top 3 finishers should be incredibly happy with what they were able to achieve out there today.
A thoroughly entertaining season rounded out by an absolutely dominant victory for ourselves here today, taking all 26 possible points with that fastest lap. 1 minute 26.095. Really showcasing our absolutely pace out there today, as that was a whole 2 seconds quicker than my teammate's best attempt, Charles, getting a 1 minute 28.106. But it hasn't been plain sailing and comfortable for ourselves for the whole of this season in terms of looking at the championship as a big picture, as my teammate Charles Leclerc has absolutely pushed me to the limit, and often he's been significantly quicker or at least quicker to some extent, and we've had to win by going for a much better strategy. And I just want to thank him so much. He's been an incredible teammate, and once again another great performance. A fantastic P2 out there today from 7th on the grid as he takes 18 points, and some fantastic punchy moves to cut his way through the field to get in front of Checo and accompany me at the front, making a 1-2 in our final My Team race, while Checo Perez is P3, a great drive in his Red Bull, taking 15 points, comfortably in front of Valtteri Bottas, who is P4. He managed to come out on top in the battle with George Russell in the Ferrari. Fantastic to see such an incredible long battle between the two throughout the race. 12 points for Valtteri and 10 for George. Will be a bit disappointed to be stuck behind a Mercedes when it gets to the end of the race in the important bit after losing out to Lewis for that podium last time out. His fellow countryman Lando Norris is then in P6 in the McLaren. A very strong result. He managed to stick behind Russell and Bottas for the whole of that race. 8 points in the end for Lando, and much better pace than he had in qualifying. Max Verstappen then recovered to P7 after starting 20th on the grid. An incredible drive from him out there today. A well-deserved drive of the day, and 6th hard-earned points for him as he finished in front of the sister AlphaTauri car in the hands of Pierre Gasly. An absolutely insane drive from the Frenchman, entirely outperforming that car and taking a very much well-deserved 4 points, while Lewis Hamilton was P9, failing to make progress from his starting position. He didn't have the pace out there today, and a disappointing result for him, as only 2 points means that he will lose a position to Valtteri Bottas, his teammate, in the driver's standings. While Daniel Ricciardo then rounds out the top 10, the Honey Badger, only gaining 2 places from his initial grid slot. 1 point in the end for him. Certainly could have been a bit more, but still, at least he managed to salvage something, while his teammate Lando Norris took a whole 8 points. Lance Stroll was MP11 in his AlphaTauri, the Canadian, narrowly missing out on points out there today, and the first of those to be lapped, but a great drive considering the machinery he's got at his disposal, while Esteban Ocon, the Frenchman, followed in his Alpine. And P12, a bit disappointing considering he finished behind both of the slower AlphaTauris, but he simply did not have the pace out there today. Neither did Carlos Sainz, only recovering to P13 after starting P18. Opting for the hard tyres really messed him up. The Ferrari pit wall making mistakes once again, and the Spaniard punished as a result. No points for him. Then the two Aston Martins followed Matsushita in front of Schwartzman. A mildly disappointing result for Matsushita after he started P11 on the grid and dropped down to P14, while his teammate Robert Schwartzman started P22 last and made his way up into P15 at the end. What a drive, and nearly managing to close onto the back of his teammate Matsushita despite starting so far behind from him. Latifi is in P16 in his Williams, dropping from P10 on the grid with a great battle with the likes of the Alfa Romeos. Guan Yu Zhou finishing in front of Yuki Tsunoda. Zhou making great progress from 21st on the grid to 17th in the end. The rookie with a good way to end his F1 season here, and Guan Yu Zhou's teammate Yuki Tsunoda then P18. Some misfortune in there for him out there, of course, getting unlucky when that gaggle of cars was getting lapped, and he lost places on those 2 instances when that happened. Then you got the Haas cars, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin then follow. Schumacher in front of his teammate Mazepin, who rounds up those who finished. Alonso was a Class 5 finisher despite having mechanical failure as he retired on the last lap of the race, while Antonio Giovinazzi failed to finish due to a mechanical failure early in the Grand Prix. But as a result of the driver standings, we are champions with exactly 200 points. A lovely rounded number for ourselves, as my teammate Charles Leclerc finishes 14 points behind in P2. An incredible season for him, finishing with 186 points as his overall tally. The 2 Red Bulls then follow Max Verstappen with 134.66 behind myself. A great season from him with some fantastic drives, as his teammate Sergio Perez follows in P4 with 103 points. Russell maintained his P5 this weekend for Ferrari. What a season it's been for him. 73 points in the end. And then the 2 Mercedes follow. Valtteri Bottas managed to overtake Lewis Hamilton in the standings. The only change as a result of this race. Bottas with 69 points, 6th in front now of Lewis Hamilton, who has 63. Lando Norris then follows in P8, Hamilton's fellow countryman in the McLaren, taking 58 points as a result. A strong season for him in front of Carlos Sainz in 9th, who has 40, while Ricciardo has 7 less, rounding out the top 10 with 33 points. And you got the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly narrowly missing out on a top 10 finish with 31 points, just 2 behind Danny Rick, while Lance Stroll, his teammate, then follows with 10. Alonso has 9 points in his Alpine, 3 more than the rookie Nobuhiro Matsushita, who got 6 points, while Ocon has 3, and Robert Schwartzman has 1. Yuki Tsunoda down. No one from there managed to score any points. In terms of the Constructors' standings, yes, we're Drivers' Champions and Constructors' Champions. 386 points in the Constructors, securing that. We didn't manage that last season, but we've done it this season. While Red Bull finished P2 with 237 points comfortably in that position, while Mercedes have taken P3 in the standings, 132 points for them, while Ferrari finished 4th with 113. They dropped away as a result of this weekend. McLaren finished 5th pretty comfortably with 91 points, while AlphaTauri are a strong 6th now with 41. Alpine finished 7th with 12 points. They didn't score today. Now that Aston Martin, so that 5-point gap remains to Aston Martin, who have 7 points. But that is it for my Team Career Mode on the F1 2021 game. I can't wait to making some content on the F1 22 game. If you guys have enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's keep the momentum going. We've done 3 seasons of my team, and I'll see you very soon when we jump into another one on F1 2022.